Hello, good morning. Well, it's still morning, not quite yet lunchtime. Well, today I'm going to talk about something that we probably all know about, but we had never really given it much thought because it only affects us old people. Now, you're wondering what I'm going to be talking about. Well, of course, in the West, you would know immediately what I'm talking about. It's called old age. In the Philippines, old age is seen differently than it is in the West. Old age is just something that acquires a certain amount of respect from others. You often see old people, pregnant people, and disabled people being given a seat on a very crowded bus or jeepney. Part of living in the Philippines is getting used to the fact that people will see you as old and show respect to you. And of course, one of the biggest things is that when you do become old here, you, as part of the family, just sort of automatically be cared for by others around you. Traditionally, that is, but not always nowadays. You often see old people. There's a lady that walks up the road here every day. She's well into her 80s, and she walks in all this kind of hot weather with food on top of her head, something to sell. She's gone and walked all the way from the market to come down here, which is a good 2 kilometers away, just to hopefully sell what she's bought at the market each day. One doesn't know whether she has a husband or family members as well, but you do notice that elderly people still find something to do. In the West, of course, you're left to your own demise. Social services often kicks in, recognises from people who reported you as struggling, living alone, maybe haven't seen you for a while. So a social worker, maybe if you're lucky, knocks on your door and tries to discover through your pride and stoicness exactly what the situation is. But of course they're trained to recognise that resilience in the elderly who have given up, have decided that life is at an end. It's a dreadful thought, but that's quite common in the West. We as Westerners are quite cruel to old people. You go around shops, you're invisible. It's as if, well, you don't have a right to be in their shop. Will they come up and say, "Yes, sir, what can I do for you? Can I help you?" No way. Here in the Philippines, you'll be approached at any moment in a department store, in a small store, even just in the market. Treated like an equal, treated as a human being. But then, of course, we have the foreigners who come here to the Philippines only to discover that they haven't found that paradise that they're looking for, but they can't really afford to go back. They came here boots and all, threw everything away, had no intention of coming back. And for them, it would be a very hard reality to deal with getting old. But here's some hope. The hope, of course, is that the cost of living here is much less than that of the UK or Australia. But The one thing that is very cheap here, and that is labour. You can employ a full-time worker to care for you, either live in or on an hourly or daily basis. And that's an important part of everybody's decision making, to maybe not look for a wife, but just to find somebody who's in a way becomes a companion, but is also your guaranteed carer. Because remember, you have a regular pension and you have the ability to pay her a reasonable salary. As long as she's honest, reliable, I say trustworthy because it's more than honest. Trustworthy infers that you might have things of value around and you want to know that they're still there when you come back a week later, maybe from visiting friends and family. But having a live-in carer is a good option here in the Philippines. You may well find even maybe a young carer who has just entered the market, so to speak. Somebody who has learned and trained with the idea of working in the carer field overseas. Now, for them, it's a big deal to catch a plane and go over to some foreign land and hopefully make a life as a carer so she can send money back to her family. But we're better than to be looking after a foreigner here in her own home country. In the province, I'm sure there's plenty of maybe even single mothers that are honest and reliable and look to find a regular job. And you have the ability, she's a caring person, and you're able to maybe even get somebody else to sit in with you when you interview her to find out that what you're asking her to look after is within her capability. It's not just being responsible to give the medicines when required, to maybe if you're in bed to turn you over occasionally with maybe the help of another person, maybe even buying equipment that might help her manage you when you get older and harder to move. I've often told you how I cared for a family member's mother, and it was my job to bathe her, to turn her, to feed her each hour or each day, and to care for her everyday needs. For about 3 to 4 months I did it. And there's a certain pleasure in doing that, knowing that you're helping somebody who needs that help. So I invite you all to consider the idea of coming here to the Philippines, with the idea also of arranging your life so that you have an enjoyable and pleasurable stay here until the end. Given that we have a reasonable retirement fund, we can easily afford to have a carer rather than ending up in some dingy old carers hostel. I'll call it a hostel because that's often what they basically are. You get a meal in the morning, a meal at lunchtime, and a meal in the evening and put to bed with the minimum amount of care and attention, because it's just a money-making business for those that see it as a quick buck to maybe purchase a house to enable them to gain assets. They don't see it as in the way a Filipina does, and that is to care for a fellow human being in a dignified and wonderful, caring way. So if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And we'll speak again soon. Bye now.